Good morning and welcome to HeavyJob Mobile 101. My name is Mason Hunt, and this is an introduction to timecard and diary entry on our mobile application. Today is April 12th, 2017, and the current version of the HCSS field application for iOS is 4.0.1. During this webinar, I will be demonstrating the functionality of the Apple iOS version 4.1.0, which is tentatively slated for release on the 19th of this month. This release is a fairly minor update, and the most noticeable differences will be the appearance of the diary entry screen and the crew picker screen on the time card, which I will be displaying shortly. Today I'm going to cover creating and customizing daily diary entries, including weather conditions and general note indexes. We're also going to create and customize a daily time card, including employees and equipment worked and materials installed, and then we'll submit our completed transactions to HeavyJob Manager. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the mobile application, and we'll be viewing that here shortly. All right. On your screen there, you should be able to see the home screen of the mobile application. At the top, there are the icons for diary, photos, and time card. The first thing that I'm going to show you is the photos functionality as an attachment to your diary. If we tap on the photos icon here on the screen, it will bring up this screen, and here you can choose to either take a picture from the camera, you can see the icon there at the bottom left, or choose a picture from your gallery if you've already taken a photo. I'm going to choose the option from gallery and choose a couple of photos that I've already taken here. Once I've tapped on those photos, they will then add to a slide deck here on the screen. You can slide back and forth. If I'd like to add a little more detail, at the bottom in the middle of the screen you'll see the Notes button. And I'll type in a little bit of detail for this photo here. Conditions. So I'm finished. I'm going to tap back on the top left of the screen. If I'd like to add even more detail, you can tap on the annotation button again at the bottom. If I tap on color at the top right, it will pop up with some colored pencils here that I can use to highlight some detail on the screen. And if I tap back, you'll see that it will save that detail on the photo. Currently it shows the status of not sent. At any point I can go back to the main menu and those photos will remain here until I send them. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the main menu, and we'll move to the diary entry portion, and it will ask if I want to send now. I'm going to go ahead and say no. On the screen there, it's going to show me as well that I have 2 unsent photos. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and tap on the diary icon here on the screen. You can see as well at the top left the date that I'm entering this information for. At any point, if I wanted to change the date, I could tap on the date there, and it will pop up with a calendar that I can change the date with. Go ahead and tap on diary here. This will bring up the diary screen, and if you're using the iOS version, you're familiar with this layout, but it will display a little bit differently. This is the new version that will be released shortly. If I tap on Use Location here towards the top right, it's going to ping the GPS device, or the GPS functionality in the device that I'm using, and as long as I'm on today's date and have a data connection, it's going to pull in the time and the conditions where I'm at. Right now in South Texas, it's partly cloudy and 79 degrees, slightly humid, and a 2-mile-an-hour wind. Previously in the application, you were only able to add 1 timestamp from GPS per day. Obviously, weather conditions change throughout the day, and we had a lot of requests to be able to add multiple to the diary from different times during the day. Now you are able to use location multiple times, as you can choose once per minute up to 3 times per day, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and move to node indexes now, and I'll come back once the time has changed and add another timestamp for the working conditions from the GPS. Next, to add a little more detail to the diary, I'm going to tap on node indexes, and you'll see a customizable list here that that you will see that's customized from your manager system. I want to say today we had a visitor on site, that the inspector was here on the job. I can add a little more detail to this card by tapping in here and either typing, or I can use the Siri functionality that's built into the device by tapping on the microphone icon at the bottom left of the keyboard. As long as I have data connectivity, either Wi-Fi or mobile connection, I can tap on that button and speak into the device, and it will add some details to the to any fillable field in the device here. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. Inspector was on site today, all okay. Tap done there. You're able to add multiple node indexes to the card as well, to the screen here on the left. At any point, you can also delete them by tapping on the X button towards the top right of the card. One benefit to using node indexes is that you're able to report on these node indexes in the manager system. So if you wanted to see each day on this job where the inspector visited the job site, you'd be able to report on that node index very easily. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the use location functionality on the working conditions and tap on that button again, and you'll see that it will stamp it again with the current time and the current conditions. Obviously it hasn't changed much, but if you were wanting to add the conditions from later in the day, if it started to rain or the conditions changed drastically and you wanted to make note of that, you can do so there. Next, towards the bottom right of the diary here is the general notes. This is generally used for a 30,000-foot view of what happened on the job that day. You can add some detail again here by tapping in that field and typing, or using the Siri functionality. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that microphone button and add a little detail here again. Production was good today. One employee left early for a doctor's appointment. Inspector approved all work. Tap done. Now at the bottom right here, you'll see the status is currently unsent and the revision is 0. At any point, if you wanted to delete this entire entry, you can tap on the delete entry button at the bottom left and it will remove all entries. And you can start fresh again. Right now I'm going to go ahead and move back to the home screen. Again, it will save all of this information in the diary entry, whether I go back to the home screen or even if I close the app, and it will retain that unsent status until I choose to send. I'm going to go ahead and tap on home here. It will now notify me that I have an unsent diary entry for this day. And next I'm going to move into time card entry for the day. I'm going to tap on that time card button there, and it will show me a blank time card. You'll see the day's date. And first thing we're going to want to add here is the crew for the day. I'm going to go ahead and tap on Add Crew. This is one of those screens that you can see is slightly different. It's a little bit cleaner than the way it previously looked. As I tap on some employees here, they're going to add to my time card on the right. You can see as they add to the right side there, that is then added to the current time card. If I go ahead and tap on equipment there at the top right, I can also add some equipment items. And if I wanted to move those items in relation to where they are located on the time card, I can tap on Edit List towards the top right of the screen here. It will look like this. And if I tap and hold on an item there, I can move it by dragging my finger up and down, like so. I'm going to move this piece of equipment into place here. The other option that I have is to link a piece of equipment to an employee. If I tap on the red minus button there, it will slide out with the option to either link or delete. If I tap on link, it will show me the employees that are already added to the time card, and then I can choose to link it there. At this point, I'm happy with the list that I have added, and these are the employees and equipment that have worked on the job today. So I'm going to tap on Done. You'll see that those show here on the left side of the screen. And next I want to add some cost codes. Let me go ahead and tap on Add Cost Code at the top of the screen there and choose a couple of cost codes that I worked on today. Let me choose these two. One thing of note here is that you have the option to hide the material and subcontractor codes. Oftentimes, as a foreman, you are not entering labor and equipment hours against the material and subcontractor codes, so it's an easy way to just minimize that list. That depends on the way that those cost codes are set up in the manager system, but if I tap on the toggle there towards the middle at the top of the screen, it will hide all of the material and subcontractor codes. I also have the option to sort by code here. If I wanted to sort by the bid item, it will then give me a header and groups of those cost codes. I'm going to go ahead and pop that open and choose to sort by code again. I'm happy with these two cost codes, so I'm going to go ahead and tap on Done at the top right of the screen. And you'll see now that there's a matrix that appears here on the screen where we can start entering our hours for the day. If I tap on the top left white square here on the time card, it will pop up with this screen here where I can choose to select the entire column. So if all employees work the same amount of hours on this cost code for the day, I can just go ahead and select all of them. You'll see that a pane has slid out here on the right side of the screen, and I can choose to enter the hours that they worked on that time or on that cost code. I'm going to say they worked 4 regular hours on that cost code. Enter 4 there in the regular rate, and then I'm going to tap Done at the bottom right, and you'll see those hours apply to all employees and equipment for that cost code. Next, I'm going to go ahead and start tapping on the rectangles towards the right here for the second cost code that's on this time card. You can see that as I tap on it, I can either choose to tap twice and it will select and unselect, or if I continue tapping down the row, it will select multiples. I'm going to say that for the rest of the day, we worked for 4 regular hours. These 3 employees and this piece of equipment worked for 4 regular hours and then 1 overtime hour. If I tap in the overtime square there towards the top right of the screen, it will select that and I can enter 1. I'm going to go ahead and tap Done here, and you'll see that those hours apply now to the employees. Obviously, equipment doesn't receive overtime, so it just adds those 5 hours into the second column for that piece of equipment. I'm going to go ahead and add the hours here for this last employee. I'm going to tap on this gentleman had to leave early today for a doctor's appointment, so I'm going to tap on him. And towards the top right here, I'm going to tap on Show Attendance Codes. And you'll see it slides out a little bit further, and you'll see the attendance codes that I can use. Again, this is a customizable list. You may not see the same options, but if I tap on Excused and then enter 4, that's going to designate that he was excused for the remaining 4 hours of the day. And I'm going to go ahead and tap on Done there. Next, since his piece of equipment was not being used the rest of the day, I'm going to also tap on that piece of equipment and choose to show a non-use codes. If I tap on that, it will slide out again, and his piece of equipment was on standby for those 4 hours, so I'm going to tap on the S and then enter 4. And that designates that that piece of equipment was on standby for those 4 hours. If I want to add a little bit of detail to as for why this employee was out for those 4 hours, I can tap on his name on the left of the time card. It will slide out again here, and I can enter some notes. Let's say left early for doctor's appointment. And I'm going to tap done. You'll see a small green box there appears next to his name, indicating that there's a note. The other thing that I'm able to do here on the time card, I see that that there are some employees here that may not have the correct pay class. If I tap on them, you'll see here at the right, it'll slide out again, and I can choose to tap on that pay class and select from the list that I have available here. Let's say he was a laborer for the day. And I'm going to change the second one here. So he was a heavy equipment operator. And tap done. You can see that it's changed their pay class there. One other small item of note here is that you're able to pinch and zoom on this screen. If you hold both fingers on the screen and pinch out, you can see there that it opens it up a little bit, or if you want to collapse it a little bit further, you can pinch it. Move it right about there. Next on the time card, I want to add some quantities for the work that I performed during this during the day today. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that cost code header. The first one is FNI. I'm going to go ahead and tap there on that, and it will bring up this screen. I'm going to go ahead and tap in the blue box right in the middle of the screen to add some quantity. I'm going to say I did 4 tons today. And at the bottom of this screen, since there are some materials that are associated with this cost code, it's going to automatically suggest a quantity based on the budget that was set for this cost code. If I actually use that suggested quantity, I can just tap on the green rightward facing arrow there towards the bottom right of the screen here, and it will automatically populate the installed quantity for that material. If I want to add any further notes to this particular cost code, I can tap on Notes at the top and towards the middle of the screen there. And again, I can either choose to add some note indexes. If I want to add some notes from the inspector, I can do so here on this screen by tapping and entering there. I can also view the estimate notes, which if you're using HeavyBid for your estimating, this will come over and populate automatically in the manager system, and then you're able to see the way that this particular cost code was estimated, the labor and the materials that were estimated for this particular cost code. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the quantities here, and then you'll see also that I can tap on the blue rightward facing arrow towards the top right to move to the next cost code that's on the time card. If I tap there, we'll move to the right, and you'll see that we can enter again some quantity here. Let's say that I installed 25 pieces during the day. Again, here you'll see a suggested quantity populate at the bottom. If I wanted to use that suggested quantity for the material, I can tap on the green arrow, or if I want to enter a different quantity, say I use 2200 instead of the 2400 that was suggested, just enter that there and tap done. Alright, I'm happy with this entry here. I'm going to go ahead and tap on Done, and you'll see now that those quantities, the production quantities for that day, appear on the main screen of the time card here. If I wanted to view how I'm doing today based on the budget and for those cost codes that I've worked on, I can tap on the Reports button at the bottom in the middle of the screen and view the time card analysis, which will show me here that that first cost code I'm not doing so well, but looks like I made up for it on the second. 4.6% finished with the work, and shows me expected and an actual dollars per unit value. If I tap on the view here, I can choose to either view, there are 6 different options that I can choose to analyze today's work by. I'm going to choose hours per unit, and you can see that immediately change. You can also choose to show different cost types, show both labor and equipment, depending on the view that I have chosen there. You also have the option to expand the date range for the week, the month, the year, or the job to date. I'm going to go ahead and tap the back arrow here to take me back to the time card. You'll see at the bottom right here that this time card has a revision of 0 and a status of unsent. If I were to tap send, it will send this time card and show me a status of sent. I'll do that here shortly. Go ahead and send this time card. Gives me a success message there. I'm going to go back to the main menu as well and go ahead and just choose to send all of the entries that I've made so far for the day. Instead of going into the diary and both the diary and the photos, you'll see at the bottom right here that a little number 3 and the option to choose to send all transactions for the day. I'll go ahead and tap on that, and it will prompt me to send all unsent items. You'll see that now on the home screen here, there's a checkbox on the diary. I sent 2 photos, so it's going to show me the number 2 on the photo icon there, and a checkbox on the time card. One other quick thing that I want to go over very briefly is the option to create a multi-job time card. One thing of note is that this functionality is only available on iOS, and you must have your manager system of HeavyJob updated to 2016. Let's say at the end of the day I had to go and perform some work on another job for an hour. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the time card icon here again. It'll bring up this time card, and I'm going to go ahead and tap on Add Cost Code. It'll bring up this screen, which looks familiar. If I tap on the Job button here, it will bring up the options for the different jobs that I have here. If I tap on a second job, it will download those the cost codes for that job, and it's going to ask me to confirm that the pay classes be reset. I'm going to say yes to make those changes. You'll see now that we've added a second job to the time card and a second cost code, or third cost code, I'm sorry. If I tap done there, it will take me back to the time card. You'll see now that it says multi-job time card at the top, and I can add some hours here as needed. Since I've already gotten to overtime, let's say that these there are these 3 employees and the 1 piece of equipment worked for 1 overtime hour. Tap done there, and now I have created a multi-job time card. You'll see down at the bottom right, the revision is now 1 because I've made changes to the pre-existing time card that I already sent, and the status is now unsent. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm happy with this time card, and I'm going to go ahead and tap send. It's going to prompt me to confirm. And now you'll see that the revision is 1 and the status is sent.